So we're talking a little bit about internet relay chats and how you can use them to control botnets or um, zombies across the wire. Uh, so if you've never used one before, then it's basically everybody has a client and there's a server somewhere that allows everybody to be able to authenticate to that client. And then from that, usually what happens is then you can just start talking to people. Um, so if you, like number one right here, the IRC has sets up the client server. So give me an example of an IRC that you guys are familiar with.
ICQ.
Okay. So you install that on your system, and um, other people have that, and then you're able to talk over a specific port using that right there. Some people use Trillion or MSN Chat or MSN Messenger. Um, but basically you can do a peer-to-peer connection. You can do a client server connection. Uh, Whole bunch of different opportunities that are available to you to be able to go through and do that. So what I would say is that usually what we see is people going through and setting that up in a way that allows them to not necessarily obfuscate where they're going or who they're coming from, but basically be able to uh, go through and creatively just have a private channel that they can go through and talk to people. Um, but there's some different websites that are out there. There's a couple that they have labeled here, Talk City and Undernet, that are kind of interesting, and you can download those specific IRCs there. But once you um, start it up on your machine, then you can just have chat available to you, and from that, then the 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 handle of what people are going to be talking down here is a couple of goofy looking ones, hot tub and risky business. Um, but if you see something over port 6667, then usually that's TCP IRC using a telnet client for specifically an IRC, which is kind of interesting. Uh, but how does it work? Well, usually what we see are kind of like what we see on the screen right here. We have um, every one of these is a type of a DOS attack, and we talked about a few of these already, but we're going to get into a couple of other ones here in the coming slides. Uh, we talked about the bandwidth attacks, and I think that that's kind of obvious. The service request task, we talked a little bit about that. We even talked about the SYN flood, but this is something we call the SYN attack, where the attacker sends a fake TCP send. So you can actually craft a packet and then send it into TCP send. Target machine sends back SYN and then the target machine never gets a response because it's a fake TCP SYN and an ACK. And down here, kind of like we were talking about before, it's a three-way handshake. It exploits that. This is probably a better drawing than the lame one that I did for SYN Flood earlier. Susie down here with no face, she is going to be the victim. And here is Keanu Reeves in the Matrix. He's going to do a SYN. Susie's machine says SYN-ACK, and then usually we see an ACK. So that's going to be the TCP three-way handshake right there. In this particular case, it's going to be SYN, 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 and you never get that full reply back, and all of a sudden the queue starts to get overwhelmed to sooner or later it's just going to become shut down. And that's how the SYN flood works. It's quite clever the way that it actually works. So again, we were talking about the botnet and more of a distributed component before, talking over the IRC with a handler. Down here, you can see Susie right here in the tank top is she's on Facebook, and she downloads something to her machine that Keanu puts out there on Facebook, and then the attacker has effectively now infected her machine. Then that particular bot looks out for other bots that are out there, and then the handler can now go to this member of the handler machine, and then it's like a proxy that he or she can then control all the zombies that are infected to say, hey, tomorrow morning at 0800, go ahead and attack WikiLeaks and bring them down. And that's typically how the botnet works. Whole bunch of different ways that you can propagate a botnet, and probably the most common one is try to hide it in something malicious, whether it's steganography. Remember we talked about that before, hiding it in a video or an image, a little nastiness behind the scenes that you don't really see, or Trojan Command and Control Center with a Trojan is another way that we could actually propagate the botnet.